one of your first tasks when moving from a practice, a landscape design practice where you're drawing by hand, to one where you are operating in a digital world, is to create a CAD version of your logo. Here's a little example of a logo that's been taken from a website. So it's just an image file. I can select it and you can see it's just an image, and I put that into the drawing with draw and raster image and insert. Now to size it and to get it appropriate, what I did was to go into a layout view, and I'll right click on the layout tab and look at the layouts manager. You can see I set it up for an A3 sheet, and I just drew a little rectangle down here in the bottom, imagining that somewhere down there in the title block will this logo be placed. And you can see over here I made the width 30 units by 20, so when I come back into the model, here's a 30 by 20 rectangle, and I drew that by taking the rectangle command, saying 2 points. I'll just scroll out a little. The bottom point can be there, and as I pull away, I just type the @ sign, and this is how we use relative coordinates, and we want 30 units and a comma, 20 units, and that pops a rectangle of those precise dimensions. And of course this is how you would do paving bricks and other things. I'll select it and erase it. So now our job is to trace over the top of the logo in there. We probably need to pick the color in here to get the precise color match, and perhaps the easiest way to do that is to start IrfanView, that little image editor, and pick the color and jot it down. It has RGB values of 201, 201, 175. So we can now return to gCADPlus, and we can select the rectangle that we put in, and as far as color is concerned, we can say select color, go to true color, or just type straight into that box down there the 201, 201, 175, and we can enter. Now if we apply a fill to that, and probably a border, and set the border color to a dark, I like to use 251, and unselect all, we now have the background for the logo, and it's a CAD background as distinct from this image background, which is not going to print all that well. Whatever we do in here now, the new one is going to print very crisply. My next step is usually, and it's just a matter of habit, to set my drawing color to red now, and I then trace over the image, and notice there's some different colors being used in here. There's a black and some sort of grey. So I would now, having set the color to red, I would pick the polyline command, and let's do this first leaf, making sure that you don't have any of the snaps or these toolbars down the bottom, these tools switched on. So you can see I'm just drawing over the top, using a polyline over the top of the leaf, and I won't do all of it for the moment, and we'll finish by closing. And to get a nice smooth curve, we just click in here and apply a quadratic. So now we have I can thicken that line up just to show you, but I wouldn't do that. And we'll say now turn line weight on, and there's our leaf shape. Well, I've traced over the design on the left. Now what I'll do is select the polylines that I've used. This time I will put polar on, and I'll move, whoops, select them again, polar is now on. It's the move command I want at this stage. Click in the middle and move them into position on the sheet on the right hand side. Now we have two different colours. They're really two different greys, and I used a magenta here. So I think I can quite safely, that's a pale grey, so I can now change the colour to quite a pale grey. This can be changed at a later time if we need. So that's the sort of washed out grey, which is hardly visible at the moment. And all the leaves that were coloured red while I was drawing now can be changed to a darker colour, and I'll pick 251. So now what I'm going to do is just change. Remember that this logo will always be printed on a white background. I'll change the background colour to white and just have a look at it. I'm not happy that this shape here, this polyline, is showing effectively, and so let's darken it up, darken its colour up. That was 254. I think we can probably go to 252, and that hasn't got quite the graduation in colour that's in the logo. So again, another change, 252. I think if we go 253, we will achieve our aim. So to me, they look reasonable. We can apply some curve fitting to all of them, all of those polylines, and we now have a reasonably good reflection of how it's going to print on paper. The next thing is to put some text in. I'm going to put the text in two stages. The short-term Joe is in a very pale colour, and then Connolly is in black, and then there's a different sort of reddy colour, and I can pick those up in the same way that I got the red, green, blue colours for the background. Well, I've now used the format text styles command and set up a new style, style 1, Arial narrow. It's a good idea to make the name of the style the same as the font name, and we'll go OK. Now it's not a perfect match for the font that was used in the original design, but it's reasonably close. And what I did, I'll move them down, and I think you'll find that we can overlay reasonably well. Needs to be expanded a little. Its width factor needs to be increased, so we just come to say 1.5, and if we maybe 1.6, so you can see it's a little fiddly, but we can get close. And the precise location of garden design is, we're going to move it down just a little. So I think now I can grab all of this and just move it across like so. And I'm just putting it in by eye, and we now have a version of that logo. It's time now to delete it. It's a good idea to even delete it from the image manager, and it's now gone. And delete, and close, and zoom extents. So we have a CAD version of our logo now. I'll just regen and zoom extents. Everything should sit in the middle of the screen. Now that logo can now be employed in a template, and it will sit within a title block down on the layout sheet. But for the moment we have a CAD version of an existing logo, and the file size will be very small. If we say file and file size 7 kilobytes, which is negligible, so it won't bulk up any of the work that we do in future when this is incorporated into our template.